Hello and welcome to the second episode in this short series on MATLAB for Dummies, and today we're going to be going over conditional statements, so if and switch statements, and looking at how they work and how we can use them. So here I've just written a simple script that has an if statement in it with an else if and an else and a switch statement. So if we just go through the code at the top, in the first line here, we have clear, which, as described in episode 1, just simply clears the workspace of any variable saved from previous scripts. So that's just good practice to have that at the start of a new script. A new main script, certainly, anyway, if you have like a sub-function, but we'll get onto that another time. Okay, so, and line number 4 here requests a user input. Now, it requests a number. So what would happen if we don't put a number in? Well, actually, it just rejects it. So if I put A in or B, like a sentence or something, it will just reject it and run it again. There are ways of having error checking. So if you only want, a number that's an integer, so it doesn't have a decimal point, or a number between 5 and 10, there are ways of checking involving loops and things, and we'll get onto them in future episodes. But in the meantime, that's the simple line there will do exactly what we want. It will make x, a variable, equal to a user input, and the caption in the command window down here will be please enter a number. Now we move on to here to an if statement. So it takes the user input value of x and it sees, very simple, is if x. Now this here is called the condition. So you need a condition with an if, because it's if something. I have seen before when I'm tutoring people, they just have if and nothing there. Well, if what? There has to be a condition. So if x is less than 5, display x less than 5, and we're going to find another variable here, y equals 0, and that's just for this switch statement down here. Now we have another line here, else if. So the reason we have if, else, and end, so end marks the end of this if statement. There could be lots of conditions. We've got 3 examples here, but you could have anywhere from 1 to, that is infinite really. Now if you had 1, you wouldn't need else if, it would literally just be if this, end, and if x isn't in that range, if x isn't less than 5, it just completely ignores the code, doesn't do anything. So here, and then the next line is else if x, and now this double equals is equal to, because here, as you can see, we put x equals and it's just one equal sign. When we want to have a condition of x is equal to something, you have to use 2 equal signs. So if x is equal to 5, display that and make y equals 5. Else, so else means in all other cases. So if x isn't less than 5, if x is above 5 and is not equal to 5, then display, which of course means all other possible values. So if, for example, we didn't have this part of the code here, if x was equal to 5, it would fall under in this bit here, because x is, if x was 5, it doesn't satisfy this condition, but there's an else, so all other situations do this. Okay, now we move down to a switch statement. A switch statement you'd use when you have a set of predefined values, basically. So a variable that can only be one, it can be any, x number of values, but it can only be those values. There's no possibility that it could be a range or something. So you wouldn't use a case, for example, when x is a range, x less than 5. That wouldn't, because it's not a predefined. So a good time to use a switch is if you're doing using a Boolean variable, which is true or false, or in MATLAB's case 1 or 0. You might have case 1, case 0. So in this case, switch y. So we're declaring the variable we want to use for have the conditions based on. So in the case that y equals 0, display y equals 0. In the case that y equals 5, display y equals 5. In the case that y equals 10. And as we know, because y is only defined in these 3 lines here, it can only be those values. It's not possible for the user to input another value. It can only be those. So if I run this script now, so please enter a number, 66.6. There you go. X is more than 5 and y equals 10. And if we follow the code, 66.6, okay, it's not less than 5, it's not equal to 5, so it's going to go else, it's going to do it, okay, and that makes y equals 10, case y, switch y, case equals 10, display y equals 10. So those are the basics of if statements and switch statements, which are your kind of conditional statements in MATLAB, and you use them for carrying out different operations depending on values of variables. Hope you found this informative, and in the next video we'll be looking at loops. See you then. Cheers.